What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Second Guessing with Stressans. I'm your host, Garrett Williams, aka Texans Commenter. Today, we're joined by special guest Steph Stradley, who I believe, I don't know if you still write for the Chronicle, but she's written for the Chronicle and
Yeah.
covered the Texans for quite some time. Steph, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I'm just happy to be on the show. Like last time we ran into each other, Rockets game. Just it's nice. Houston's a big place, but it's a very small place too.
Yes, it is, and that was kind of cool. I'm glad you mentioned that. So obviously we had, talked and discussed, interacted online back and forth. So it was nice to meet you in person and to kind of get to know you a little bit better. I'm glad I didn't talk to you too much because that kind of saves, like the intrigue and the questions for this interview here. And what was pretty cool too was I got to, meet your son, and then
Yeah.
I hadn't met him yet, but we talked before pregame and you told me he was sitting somewhere and I had like a random seat and sat in a random seat, and lo and behold your son sat right next to me and me and him talked the entire game. So I thought that was pretty cool. Jackson, shout out Jackson. We had some great conversations, and I will say congratulations to you. You've raised a great son, so I enjoyed our
Oh,
convo with him. So I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah, definitely. No,
But
that was neat. I really appreciate that you're doing this series of interviews because really this is our season, where in the off season, that's how you make a team. And that's really how we as a fan base, like we don't have leadership, but like we are the first fan base that was really pulled together in the digital age. We came together right when, in the message board era, and then it turned into the social, the blog era, and then the social media era. So I really like when we get to know each other as people because it's really easier to kind of collectively do things as a fan base and have more fun when we know each other a little better. It just makes the experience better.
yeah, and that's kind of what we had talked about when we met at the Rockets game, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, and I'm guilty of it, and I'm still learning my way. I basically made this page just organically, and I didn't like intend nor envision me doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But I have learned a lot, and like to your point with that, like you tend to forget. You get so ingrained in this texting, pretty much that it's like almost not real. But so it is a great reminder to actually get to know the people and be like, okay, maybe I'm just lost in this sauce of. You have so many toxic interactions throughout the day that I guess
No,
I'm
no,
speaking for
we're not.
myself here, that you can allow it to make you think things are a certain way
No,
and they're not.
and we're going to be all blessings tonight because this is how I feel about it. Like I've been through just about every era of digital interactions, and as you have kind of expressed, like it's really easy when you're just talking to people online where you don't see somebody's face, you just see like short bursts of writing, and it's really easy to kind of talk past each other or be upset about somebody's tone. And I kind of accidentally figured that out because in the early days, you know, there were a number of different ways that we as Texan fans kind of collectively got together. In the early days, there was tailgating. Under the Oilers days, tailgating wasn't allowed. And really, tailgating is in some ways the backbone of the in-person experience because how do you get 70,000 people at NRG Stadium by noon on most Sundays with the right energy to help the team? And that's something that we collectively as a fan base and the team has kind of worked on together over time. And so in the early days, the only way that we really talked to each other digitally was we had a message board, and there was an actual like official Texan board. Were you on that message board at all?
I was not. I was
It
not. I
was a
wish I
long time
was.
ago. But that was how people interacted, and that was kind of the gathering place. There was only one gathering place for everybody. And um and over time I ended up, if you wanted to find more in-depth news on the team, you had to go to message boards to kind of get that information. Like message boards still have a place today with a lot of colleges and teams, but that was the main place. And eventually they asked me to be a volunteer moderator because I was a semi-sane person on the message board. Uh, and then eventually there was a really good Astros blog on the Chronicle. And so I thought, it'd be really nice if there was a Texans board or a Texans blog too, and I could do that. And so I just, I talked to a couple people and they had me do it. And I've been doing this, you know, on and off since 2006. I don't write as much for cron.com as I used to because, frankly, there's a lot more content creators now. Because, like in 2006, who wants to write about a really bad football team where people were very disappointed that Vince Young wasn't picked or Reggie Bush wasn't picked, and they got this Mario Williams guy, which that particular draft was also the D'Amico Ryans draft, Owen Daniels draft. Like a lot of really good players came from, Eric Winston draft. Like there were opportunities and good players drafted. And so, at first I was kind of scared to be writing publicly about football. I'm a lawyer by background, and I'm not really a public person. And so I was a little scared starting off, but I have to say the Houston Texans fan base are just really incredibly generous people and have had my back at times, and we've had each other's back at times, and collectively, like, the team is named after us. We are Houston Texans. Like, when we talk about the team, we can just say this is the team, but it is all of us. Like, you would think you wouldn't be able to steal the Houston Oilers name, and of course they had to change it, but like, we are the city of energy. Well, if you name the team after us, really hard to move it. Like, they would have to definitely change the name if you did that, but like, it's named after us. And it's been kind of an adventure over time. Like, I started off scared, but it has been just the most enriching experience of my life, getting to know so many amazing fans, both public fans and not public fans, that do remarkable things, and collectively we all come together and do amazing things. And I've seen so many amazing things over the last couple decades. I can't believe that my kids were itty bitties when I started this, and now, they're grown ass adults sitting with you at Rockets games.
Which was awesome. But speaking of like awesome fans, I mean, shout out to fans. We got, I would say fellow friends. Primo Looks on Instagram, he wanted to shout us out, and then obviously Lance and Eddie, all the typical people in the chat. But I apologize. I should have asked you, like I normally ask, your background and kind of what led you to where you are now, but you kind of just answered it. Is there anything else in there that we should be, keen on? Basically, like, your history of becoming a fan. It sounds like a message board was part of it. You got, made to a moderator. You wrote for the Chronicle, and then you said you're a lawyer as well. You want to share any more on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think before that, like, I moved, like, my dad was in the Air Force, and I've always, like, I was an early reader, and I read Sports Illustrated as like a little kid. Like I was reading regular Sports Illustrated at a time where children probably shouldn't be reading some of that stuff, but it was just sports. And back in the day, there weren't that many channels, and still today, sports is something that everybody can agree on watching. It's something that you can, all come together kind of collectively as a society or as a family. And so I watched it with my folks. My grandmother was a huge Vikings fan. My mom was my mom was a huge Vikings fan. Shout out to all of the family members I have in Minnesota, which is a lot of them. And
so they were happy last year.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And then I was born in Wisconsin. So I did not know as a little kid that you were not allowed to root for the Packers and the Vikings, because I didn't understand divisions. And really, people's fandom kind of happens in different ways. And so we moved all over the place. But Houston was the first place I moved where you had the team here. Like, I remember the first time I walked into the Astrodome, and it just was like, it blew my mind. And I moved here in the middle of Love You Blue. So Earl, Bum, and then, eventually, you had University of Houston having Phi Slamma Jamma. Like, this was a good era to kind of move to Houston and really get into sports and going to games in person and going to see the Astros. And I have to say, I kind of took the Oilers for granted. Like, there were always, noise about them moving. And I'm like, why would you move away from a city that has all these Fortune 500 companies? You have all these football loving people. And
Mhm.
the answer is the answer that happens with a lot of things, which is people, money. It's not that money it's not that money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And really, there were a lot of people that just did not come together as a city. And we've seen the worst of, like, the Astrodome kind of represents right now both the best of human achievement at the time and also the worst of it, where we can't come together and figure out what to do with it. And it's hard to kind of collectively figure those things out. I once wrote something for the actual paper about what's the next step for the Astrodome, and it did not go well. Like, I'm trying to write this in a way where I'm like, okay, I know that what the different views of things are, and I'm going to write this out in a way that people will understand and will. I got so much grief from that. That was very difficult to do. But in any event, when we lost the Oilers, I actually went to the last Steelers Oilers game by myself because I played in a flag football league with the Young Lawyers Association, and I played 4 games in a row, and it was raining, and I was covered in mud, and I'm driving home, and I'm listening to the Oilers Steelers pregame, and it's all talking about how it's going to be the last one ever. And I'm weeping in the car, and I'm not a crying person, but like, I'm covered in mud, I'm weeping. It's like, this is the end, and and it's different, like hating the Cowboys versus having a team that you root for affirmatively. And so I called up my ticket broker guy, because back then you had ticket broker guys, and I got a single ticket. I picked it up on the way there. The traffic getting into the dome was terrible because they never had enough people to direct traffic, and there wasn't tailgating, so everybody showed up at the same time. And there was a lot of Steelers fans there, and I sat next to a Steelers Aggie fan in the best ticket I could get, which was a pretty decent one, but there were no good seats in the Astrodome. The sight lines were garbage. And the Oilers won that day, and they went around after they won, and they high-fived those of us that were in the stadium. And it was just, that was me saying goodbye to the team, because I didn't think we were going to get another team. The next team was supposed to go to LA. Everybody wanted it in LA except us. And Bob McNair, with a collection of people who wanted to work together to make this happen, made it happen. And that was the birth of the Texans. And at the time that they were talking about it, I kind of made a pledge that if we get a team back in Houston, I will never take it for granted. And I haven't. I haven't. Now, did I think that the stuff that was going to happen after that with message boards and writing, like, eventually I ended up writing some things for Sports Illustrated and other places, and had, like, the Texan fans voted me as ultimate fan in 2006, and I went to the Super Bowl. And then another time there was like some kind of contest where it was mommy bloggers versus NFL bloggers to see who was going to go to the Super Bowl. And Texan fans in mass voted me to go, and so I went to the Super Bowl again. And so I got to see the Prince Super Bowl. That was Bears Colts. Bears fans were really fun.
Devin
Colts
Hester
fans were
kick
kind of
return,
full of
right?
themselves. Miami. And then I went to the Beyonce Super Bowl. And that
Man,
one that went to the very end of it. The power went off. Um, I actually did a thing where I wrote an article about how can you VIP the entire Super Bowl? Like, can you do it? And their bars don't shut down. So I had to recover for a couple of weeks after that particular Super Bowl. But since then, I've been to different, like, I haven't necessarily gone to the games, but I've gone to Super Bowl cities because part of it is I am practicing for the day that the Texans go to the Super Bowl. And I'm making the connections. Like, I had it set, like, I had a place, I went to New Orleans. I had a place set up for staying there. I actually had it set up that if the Texans and the fans went to New Orleans Super Bowl, I had parades set up. Like, this is how, like, this is not normal. Like, I know,
no, I
but I
love it.
just,
We need that. I can't think 1 or 2 days ahead, much less several
yeah.
months ahead. So we need this because I would love
Well,
that,
we're
but I wouldn't think about
envisioning
it.
it with our minds. Like,
But I'm pretty positive too. I think it will happen and can happen and will happen soon. So please keep doing what you're doing because
well, I mean,
eventually
I
it's going to
think,
happen.
well, you would think so, but I mean, if you look at the, like, I wrote during some very difficult days following the Texans. Like, at some point, I kept on, like, worrying that I was gonna be self-plagiarizing so much, talking about the book of Job, like, really understanding it. Like, if you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were trash for decades before they were actually a dominant team. Like, it took them a long time. Now, the biggest thing that I love now is I'm one of those people that completely believes and trusts in D'Amico Ryans. Like, he is, my first year writing my blog for cron.com, that was his first year as a player. And it, someday when I grow up, I might be as mature as D'Amico Ryans is. He's he loves football like the people that are on your chat, they love football in a special way. Like, there's loving football, and then there's, planning
Being obsessed.
parades. Yeah, there's planning parades about football. So, but, like, football people kind of find each other, and that was what was so nice is, like, when I first became a Texan fan, my friend and I have tickets together. And this is a digression. I actually mentioned her on my appearance on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire a
Wait,
million years
what?
ago.
You
Yes,
were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
yes, with
Of
Regis
course you were.
Philbin. You can find it on YouTube.
You're the most
2000,
interesting woman in the world. You got like all these cool facts about you.
that's nice. But it was one of those things where they did tryouts in Houston, and I took the test. I did the interview. I was put in a pool of people. I didn't think I was going to get picked because it was the end of the show. Like, their ratings were going down. It was right after 9/11, so it was a difficult time for New York. That's where they filmed the show, and I was on the show, and one of the things that Regis talked to me about was how much of a big sports fan I am, and how my friend and I had tickets to this new team called the Houston Texans, and that was like, we filmed that December 2001.
Wow. Do you have the clip of that?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Like, there's
Yeah,
two
we need to reshare that. That's
episodes because I
awesome.
was the oh, it's a weird episode. Like, talk about interesting. They had a special episode called Ladies Night because they had the UK version of the show got the rights to the song Ladies Night. And what they didn't tell us, they told us to wear, like, dressed up clothes. And, at the time, I think Jackson was like a year and a half old. Like, so this is, a while back. And what they didn't tell us is that they were going to have male strippers. I know. Like, I'm telling you this story,
Maybe
and
I
it
won't
sounds
watch
like a
this.
strange dream, but this is real. This happened. And so, yeah, at the end of the episode, I am greeted off stage by these these stripper guys, which was extraordinarily uncomfortable for me. Eventually, my husband came out of the crowd because he was my friend supporting me in the back. Um, my phoner friend was the valedictorian of my high school class. Hello, Jean. Um, that was like actually that experience is probably one of the reasons why we're talking right now because uh, I had never been on a message board before, but when I got into the pool to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I wanted to win because I'm I'm a I'm a competitive person in a way that I've had to control. And so the good kind of competitive is okay, you're going to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You want money and you want to win and you don't want to look stupid. So I found a community online, which is a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire message board. And I was very scared about being on a message board because that was where the weirdos were. Like, I mean, no offense, internet people, but some of you are the bad weird. But none of the people here. These are the people here are all the good weird. And so I got to know those people and they were really nice and comforting. Like, back then, like when 9/11 happened, you couldn't find information online and a lot of internet stuff was down and people were at work and didn't have access to what was happening. So we were all kind of collectively like watching the TV and telling what was happening to people and just comforting each other. And like that's what a lot of online people are. And so because I got more comfortable with that message board, I was better with sports message boards. And then eventually, when I was blogging originally for the Chronicle, I had a couple of different blogs over time. Um, that was like back, Lance Zerline had a blog. Um, Jerome Solomon had a blog. Richard Justice had a blog. And back then, if you wanted to find sports information, you had to go to the cron blogs because there wasn't that much written stuff and there was no video stuff like this. Like that didn't happen. Like, I'm talking about this, but like this is the Stone Ages, but that, that's how it
Well, that's
was.
awesome. That's awesome that you've seen it evolve, though. I mean,
But the
sports and just like the
yeah,
media part of it.
but the funny thing about it was back then I had to approve every single comment manually.
Wow.
Like it because they had to make sure that like there was no cussing and no personal attacks. And I've seen some things. Like I have seen some things with digital stuff and whatever. I try to focus in every decade and online is what are the best use cases of online? And this is one of the best use cases. And yes, Ryan is the good weird. Ryan has been at our tailgate. My tailgating experience is actually one of those things where both the internet and online or in-person people kind of help together. Like when the Texans first started, I'd never been to a tailgate before, ever. And my friend and I, we would like go to different ones, but we didn't have an official one. We didn't know, like in the early days, I didn't know anybody who cared about the Texans as much as I did. And then online got those people in my life. And then also the tailgating did and going to games in person. And when at some point I met these guys that were cooking something and we're like, hey, next time, we're the girls, we'll bring brownies or something. And then we formed what was called the LoneSpot Tailgate because it started off with one spot in the Platinum lot. And it's right down the way from the Blue Crew, which they were day one people and very gracious and very generous people, and kind of taught you kind of the ethos of what Texans tailgating is all about. And it just grew over time. And a lot of the people that I see commenting here are lone spotters. And if you've ever been to our tailgate, you are a member of the Lone Spot tailgate. We welcome everyone. We just want everybody to have a good time. And our particular, like every tailgate has its own things. Our tailgate, Everybody goes to like their local donut shop that has like maybe some good tacos, or somebody brings Whataburger because they know somebody's coming in from out of state that kind of wants it. And so we try to have all the Houston foods, all the Houston beers, all the Texan kind of things. And in Houston, all the foods are ours. Korean
Yep.
food, ours. Vietnamese food, ours. Mexican food, ours. Cajun food, ours. Like, we own all the best stuff. So we try to get all the best foods, all the best drinks, all the best vibes, and then we gas each other up, and then we're ready to go into the game.
I love
And
that.
and and then for the playoff game, our tailgate actually won tailgaters of the game. It was,
Oh, wow. Awesome.
every tailgate's different depending on who ends up showing up. Like, so I never can predict it. So in some ways, they're all the same because you're setting up things, but every tailgate's different. You see different people, you meet different people. People from every walk of life come by. Some people, some of the people that are key people to our tailgate, I didn't know them in the early days, and now they're the ones setting everything up. And it's beautiful. Like, it really is like heaven on earth, particularly when the team is really good. And one of the things, like, I have goals for this upcoming year because the team is doing their stuff. I'm really happy with the staff. D'Amico,
Yep.
day one, when he had his press conference, he said he was going to get a group of people to be developers and teachers. And it was going to be a diverse group of people. And, they've made some changes over time because their standards are very high. Like, I wasn't surprised that they made changes because their standards are very high. They expect rookies, they expect their staff, they expect everyone to compete at a high level. And if you don't, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that you didn't solve the problems fast enough, or you didn't meet the standard. And
Well, everyone wants to be held accountable to that standard as well, too. So it's not a bad thing.
so we need to hold ourselves, like, what our can, like, we can always say, oh, well, they need to work harder on this, or they need to do this and this and this and this. Well, what are we doing? What are we doing? So I'm going to tell you what we are doing, or whoever wants to join us, because we're Houston Texans. Like, there is no team in us. We're not just a mascot. We are a people. Like, and we're named after Sam Houston, who is a badass. All the badasses leave Tennessee, get out of there, come to Texas, and do some damage. So
I love it.
so first thing is, we need to maintain home field advantage. That is very difficult in the
Let them
post-COVID
know.
world because we have digital tickets, and the
Hmm.
digital tickets make it easy to sell to anyone. So what I'm telling you out there is, if you have season tickets, try to sell it to your Texan guy. Like, I met this guy who is a friend of Jackson's. Like, I've known him since he was in preschool, and he was telling me a couple years ago that in his group of people, he was the Texan guy. And I'm like, you're the second generation of Texan fans. There shouldn't be a Texan guy. There should be, everybody's a Texan.
That's
And
crazy.
that's
Yeah.
the goal. And so, but all of us know those Texan guys. Do not let those tickets stay in your desk. You find that Texan guy who's going to support the home field advantage and have a good time at the tailgate and have the energy right. Make sure that the tickets get to Texans. And if you're thinking of going to a game, you can buy tickets. Like, there are definitely 70,000 people in Houston, Texas, who are badass football supporters who can support this team that's really easy to support. They have a quarterback, they have a dominant defense, they keep on reloading, and this is a reloading team. So they don't want to just have starters and scrubs. They want every single person on their 53-man roster to be somebody who can kick somebody's ass and could play as a starter. And the guys on the practice squad, those guys could be starters too. And they've shown that they've been able to do it. They've done ambitious things. So this is a team that every game should feel like a playoff game. Every game. Now, that's hard to do with a noon start because, like, East Coast, their starts are at least 1. We have to bring it by noon, which means, and we have to get 70,000 people there. So that means we need to get the tailgating. That's our first thing, get the Texan fans into the building and not the opposing fans. Thing two, we need to get back to having the number one tailgating team in the country. First of all, it's easy for us to do because we have all those parking lots. Secondly, we like to eat and party. Nobody parties better than Houstonians do. I'm just going to put it out there. And sometimes people go, don't you remember back in the day when it was so much better? No, that's on us. We collectively need to make sure that the early people are in early and that you're not just showing up at 10 o'clock thinking that you're tailgating. Tailgating starts early, and we need to get as many people in early so that, some people have to arrive late. They're waiting for their babysitter. Like, I've been there. Like, I understand that. We need the early people to come in early and really get a bang for their buck for their tickets and get that energy going. And Texan tailgating is much more sane than, let's say, Bills tailgating. Like, they have a good tailgate culture, but we appreciate not having ER copays. Let's not have ER copays. Let's just, what is an actual good time? Actual good time isn't.
You don't want to break any tables? You don't want to break tables at the LoneSpot?
No. We eat good food. We enjoy our friends. We don't put ketchup and mustard on some guy. Like, why would you do that?
So everything you're doing now is these are questions I was going to ask you. So it's kind of nice that you just kind of know the conversation. But so these are questions I specifically wanted to ask you because you're as you've shown throughout this interview, you're day one. You saw the Oilers, so you've understood to not take things for granted. So you appreciate, the team, whether it's good times or bad.
Even like COVID, that's very recent. We couldn't go in person. We couldn't go to a restaurant.
So another reminder to not take it for granted.
We shouldn't take anything for granted. Our freedom to do cool stuff. We should not take any of that for granted. And the nice thing about sports is it's so uplifting that no matter what's going on in your life, and I have to tell you, some fans know this, but there's people going through things in life, and the fans helped my sister out when she was going through leukemia, and they raised money for her and donated blood and was uplifting to me, and at any given time in every single tailgate and various people have things going on, and it's really cool to be able to lock into a sports thing and not think about your boss, not think about your health, not think about, hey, Harvey just dumped 60 inches of water in 2 days. It's just something that so when you're at a tailgate and the tailgate's dialed in good, you're just getting uplifted and you're gassing each other up, and then you're ready to cheer in your team. And then you come out after the tailgate and you're like, wow, how many interceptions did they have? Did you see that? That's the fun. And you get to meet just amazing people. He no longer lives in Houston, but one of the key members of the LoneSpot Tailgate is somebody who's a virologist and also a DJ. So he DJ'd for us and also knew virology things.
That's
so
interesting.
But you meet all sorts of fascinating people and people from all different backgrounds. And then you have people that hey, I've cooked all these things. So for the playoff game, we had spicy chili and a gumbo and chicken legs and just all the foods. And so people bring their gifts, whether it's making art or making food, or here's my favorite beer, or have you tried this tequila? I mean, it's just a bunch of nonsense all at once. But there's any number of ways that people can have a tailgate. One of my favorites was a Thursday night game, Astros playoffs against the Eagles were happening at the same time the Astros were playing the Phillies. A lot of Eagles fans there. My tailgate couldn't show up as a Thursday night. And so I invited some people that had never been to a Texans game before. They popped open their tailgate and they had pizza back there, and we just sat in chairs and ate pizza. Like, it's your tailgate can be anything that you want it to be. Or if you don't have a tailgate, just come visit. Like, every single lot
Yeah.
in the whole
Everyone's very
stadium,
friendly.
especially near the fronts of lots, they're very, very, very friendly. And, some are very open to people, just like everybody's just happy together that we have football, as Houston should, because we are the headquarters of real football globally. Because it's not the Cowboys. They don't do things in a football way,
They don't even tailgate. They can't even tailgate their
They
stadium.
don't tailgate.
I
It's
will
all
say
about
though, they finally got that Texas Live, and that place is badass. Did you go to the game this year?
I was going to, but unfortunately I had a friend of mine who was very sick and I did not go. But
Well,
it
so
was
that would be another
great seeing it.
question we can get to after. But like having been to that and I'd heard about it, it's like 8 bars in one. It's like a mega bar, and that's like their tailgate, and then you just walk to the stadium. But I'll ask you that
All,
question. But
all I
first,
can say is the best food I have ever eaten in my whole life has been at my tailgate, because just people like in my house we call it feast, and feast happens when you tell all your friends to come over and bring the best thing that they make. And if everybody brings the best thing that they make to your house, it's going to be better than any restaurant. And sometimes restaurant people bring stuff, or sometimes people go to their favorite restaurant and bring it, and then you're having one bite of all the best foods, sometimes more than one bite.
that's a great
I
point.
gotta admit.
Yeah, count me in. I'm there next year. I'm coming by for sure.
I'm holding it. I'm
I
holding you
got your
to
number,
it.
so I'll make sure and connect. But like
Totally.
what I want to know from you though is like obviously
Yeah.
you are like an experienced fan. You've been a fan of the year, and you are starting to address issues that we all agree with. Like we need to have our home field be better. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons as to why that may be the case.
And we don't need to
Houston.
talk about the reasons.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
what coaches will tell you is every year is different. And I'll tell you now, like right now, people are making all sorts of predictions based on the schedule. And 2011, that was a very uplifting season. 2012, uplifting season until it wasn't. Big predictions for 2013, and then everything that could go wrong that season in terms of injuries, your coach having a stroke right before halftime, and then you have to finish playing that game. Like everything that could go wrong that season did. So right now we're like Schrodinger's cat. Like we both have Super Bowl aspirations, or it could go completely south if the wrong people get hurt at the wrong time or something blows up. Like there's known unknowns and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, but right now
And I see
there's
the
it's in
chat. People do have some questions. We'll get
yeah,
to the schedule. I mean, I'll probably ask you, and then normally
yeah.
I'll stay on and I can get to the questions on that after. But
No, I can
we'll put
I
a
can answer. We can both
yeah.
answer.
No, but like I want to finish this
Yeah.
topic we're on though. So obviously we need to fix it. Do you have faith in? I forget the position of the new guy we got, Mike Tomlin, I believe is his name.
I've
It seems
talked
like
to
they got him in for multiple reasons. One, for like a new stadium and/or practice facility, and then also is to improve the game day experience. Which one of the reasons, as an excuse is, it takes forever to get in, and I've experienced that. I've been like, right next to the stadium an hour and a half before, and like almost been late a number of
and
times.
and
So
this is me. I drive in really early. I don't run into any traffic at all. I drive right to my spot. I set up the tailgate. And actually, early tailgate to me is the most fun because there's fewer people. You're setting things up. You're kind of catching up with the old heads. You're setting things up really cool. You're going, oh, I get first dibs on the jalapeno poppers. Like all of it. Like it's just very. If you go early, there's no traffic whatsoever. Like not one bit. Like you drive right in. And if you wait a little bit of time after the game, there's no traffic either. Like I would like, traffic or partying? Traffic, partying. Go a little earlier. Like, and some people can't go early. I understand that. But if you want to get bang for your buck for your tickets, go early, leave late. And you don't have to, like, if it's, some people are like, it's too hot, it's too hot. You know, even if you go early, one of the cool things of going early is you can go in the building and watch the players stretch. You can see them up close. There's, you know, even though there is like the place where you can buy merch in the gift shop, there's all sorts of gift shops inside, including the lower level. There's a big one in there unless they change it. But going back to what you just said, you know, I loved everybody who was running the Texans before. They're all incredible people. Mike Tomlin, I met him a couple of times. He's brought in specifically for his knowledge of, like Texans, we steal the best people. Like, are you a badass? Okay, we're going to steal you. You're going to be a Texan. So he is a badass in kind of the logistics of building stuff. And one of the things that we talked about was reclaiming the Texans' #1 tailgate spot, because the late Joe Kahn, rest in peace, the commissioner of tailgating, named us #1. Now, that's hard to do when we don't have, we're not a legacy team, but we are, nobody beats Houston for food and partying and, and energy. Like, we are an energy city, and we need to bring that energy in for the games. And it's hard to do. It's hard to do for a noon start. But, part of it is us talking all together. And I think the other part of it is, number 3 thing is the Traveling Texans.
I've met up with them, and I forget the lady's name. I talked to her. I met her at the Ravens playoff game a couple years ago. I met up with them. Yes, I'm familiar.
Pamela is
Pamela,
the one
yes.
that's been kind of taking head on that for the fans in recent years. But the Traveling Texans is basically an accidental organization. It's not even an organization. It's a headless, like, let's have fun thing. There's always been Texan fans that traveled with the team from the get-go. And the ones that did it in the very early years were brave souls, because there was a lot of losses and you were wildly outnumbered. So the people, like, shout out to Joe Texan, who kind of told me how things go. And it's still weird going to tailgates and not having Joe Texan around. And so when the Texans had their first road playoff game, 2011, in Baltimore, there was a lot of fans that wanted to go but had never gone to a team or a game, and they're kind of scared of going to Baltimore. And so the fans that had been going to games got with these other fans, and me just being kind of a loud person, and I had a platform. And we just said, hey, this is where we're going to meet, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to have a fun time. And so we, like, back then we were handing out flyers in airplanes to just kind of spread the word, because that's how things were done. And so I didn't get there the first night, but the first night they found somebody who was a Texan in Baltimore, took over his bar, and they sold out of Shiner Bock in 30 minutes.
That sounds right.
And then the next morning, everybody met at their respective hotels, and we all collected at a place called Mother's. And somebody paid the DJ to play Texan music. And so there is a video somewhere on YouTube of a bunch of cold Texan fans dancing around to various Texan music. And because, in Baltimore, they have all sorts of bars and stuff near the stadium. And then a group of us went to a tailgate there, and they're like, what are you doing here? And we're like, we don't like the Steelers either. And then they're like, here, all the beer. And it was just an uplifting time. And we knew what the odds were with TJ Yates. And I have to say,
I was at that game too.
Where were you sitting?
I was sitting, I want to say, second level in the end zone. I had a perfect view of when Jacoby Jones muffed that punt. It was like, I was looking right at it.
So hard. And he's such, rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Such a nice, he was such
R.I.P.
a
Jacoby
nice
Jones.
guy. Such a funny guy. Such a
Yeah.
nice guy. We actually splurged and got tickets right behind the Texans bench, because when you sit behind the bench, it's like there's two games going on, the game and then the game within the game. Arian Foster, that game, I mean, he held the team together that year. That was just
Yeah.
such a magnificent performance for that guy, just kind of going, okay, TJ Yates, all of us are going to come together and support you. And then you had your JJ Watt, who you could tell really early on was going to be somebody special, but then what he's become is just beautiful to see, and is actually, it's great for us, because there was a time where some people thought, if you're drafted by the Texans, you're never going to be heard from again. And as Andre Johnson has shown, and what JJ Watt's going to show, is you can succeed here and people are going to support you. And part of the support is number 4, beyond Traveling Texans, which we're going to make even bigger this year, so that when the Super Bowl is in San Francisco, it's going to be a home game.
Let's
we're
go.
gonna bring all of our crew out. I'm hoping to go to the Rams game week 1, because I have Cuz out there. May go to Seattle because my brother lived there for a while. But I've never had a bad time at a Traveling Texan game, because we find each other, we hang out, we're just happy that we're there, and sometimes we can make a difference. You've heard, especially for Tennessee Titan games, where you can hear us as a group, and that's important, because there's some teams that never play a road game. The Steelers never play a road game, right?
Yeah.
The Cowboys never play a road game. Someday that's going to be the Texans, but what we do have is, I know for a fact that there's Texans all over the world. We have a big contingent in Japan. We have a big contingent in Brazil, in France, in the UK. And they're really easy, fun, like the way that the Texans do their business, it's good to root for. Like, you're not rooting for Jerry Jones to decide to do something. Like, you're trying to do football the right way, which is you're getting the football people making football decisions, and you're supporting the players to get them where they need to be. So number 4 thing for us to do as a society in Houston is, we need to make sure that every player that comes through the door, whether it's a name player or somebody who's trying to make it as an undrafted guy, like an Arian Foster, feels the kind of love that we have. So if you're a teacher, you teach well. If whatever, if you cook good barbecue, cook good, like, do all the things that make people want to stay. Because the reason why we have D'Amico Ryans as our head coach is he felt at home and welcomed. So number 5 thing for us to do in the off season, what you're good at doing and what a lot of people are good at doing, and what we can do as individuals, is you find the roster and learn about all the players, learn about them. And sometimes the players that are at the edge of the roster end up being important players for your team, and you get to know their families, and you get to know their coaches, you get to know people that knew them in their colleges, and the alumni come and visit, and you make sure that all the players for the team feel like they're welcome and heard. Because one of the things I learned pretty early on is, it's hard to do analysis in a way that doesn't sound weird. Like, because you're analyzing somebody that you don't know as a person, and you're seeing clips of their game, and you don't know necessarily much about them. You've read about them, and you know them in some way. But can you imagine? And, Houston's a small place. We're all friends and neighbors. Could you imagine somebody breaking you down about what your pluses and minuses are, and then you would go, "Man, that's not me at all." And
Yeah.
I've experienced that some too. Sometimes people will tell me, "Well, you feel like this about something," and I'm like, "I don't feel like that about that at all. Like, come talk to me about it."
Yeah, I
And
would definitely struggle with that if I was a professional athlete, you know. But I mean, at the same time, it is what it is. I guess, like for them, you know, like it's going to be hard to change the group think. It's just the way
I
society
don't
is.
know. No,
But I
no,
think,
actually, when Houston is at its best, we are the most generous towards the players because we know that they care to do a good job more than we do. Like it's their job. Like, when we go
yeah.
to the grocery store, we're just going to the grocery store. When they go in the grocery store, they are player name Houston
Well,
Texan. Like
I
they
should say
live
this
there.
like when fans are like being fair and like like you had a
Yeah,
bad game. Like I'm like I don't agree with like the name calling and this and that. Like but like as far as evaluating a player, like he had a bad game, good game. Even then, that could still become annoying too because and I'm guilty of it. Like I watch film and say this guy did this, but like I may be wrong, even though I think I'm right. So that part of it I can
it's
see.
hard. It's a struggle, but like I think the main thing is going back to like how the original message board was. Which, by the way, this is a sweet story. Um, they were shutting down the original message board, and people were upset about that. And the digital director at the time gave the entire message board to a group of fans. And so it's still run to this day. Texans Talk, shout out Texans Talk people. But one of the rules of
Oh wow.
Texans Talk is um, we focus on the football. Like we don't get into politics or any, like that's a different message board. Um, and that you attack arguments, you don't attack people. So you don't attack the
Yeah.
people that are trying to give you information because
Yeah.
that's not cool. We're all friends and neighbors. And you don't make it personal because
Yeah.
making it personal, people are focused on the tone and they're not focused on what you're saying. So like if I say, oh, the Dallas Cow Turds did blah 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 blah, well then so it's like you shouldn't call them that name. Well, okay, I guess, but when you keep it just talking football, you can keep it where you're having an interesting conversation, and that's hard to do between friends and strangers, but really we are Texans. And so a long time ago they had a Love You Blue reunion in the bubble. I want to say it was like 2008, and Bum Phillips did the key speech for it. And I've been looking for this video everywhere. I've asked different people, different news stations and all that. But one of the things that he talked about, what made Love You Blue special, was that those people that we were all friends and neighbors with each other, that we all lived together, and that we cared deeply for each other. And when you've seen the best of Houston, that spirit of Love You Blue, it's not in the back of some jersey that some Nimrods do in Tennessee. Love You Blue is the same thing as Heart of a Champion, and it's the same thing as when the Astros are crushing it, where we all come together and we catch people's hat that fall off the parking garage and pass it back up to the person. Or when we have Hurricane Harvey, we have the largest fundraiser of all time, started by JJ Watt saying, I'm putting my money up. I feel helpless, but this is something I can do. If we collectively all do this together, we win. Because, the worst part of Harvey, I thought at times like we would never come back from it. It seemed that bleak at moments. And we all collectively came together and helped each other, and that's the best of sports. Like if everything was run like a really good sports team where there's no excuses, there's no finger pointing, there's accountability at the right time, um, that that the leadership is doing football leadership things. It's beautiful. It's beautiful when people come together. And that's what the lessons of sports are. Is like, how do people from all different backgrounds with all different personalities, how do we all come together and do cool stuff together? And I I have seen miracles. I have seen miracles with the Texans, small and big, players that, may not be name players doing amazing things. Like Brian Brayman
Yeah, that was an awesome story.
used the NFL to get teeth.
I did not know that. I just knew he
Oh,
was a fun player to root for.
he was a great player to root for, and he had that great energy, and he had a difficult story getting into the league, and they realized that he wasn't getting the nutrition he needed because he had bad teeth. He came from a poor background where dental care was hard for him to get. And so he was able to get new teeth. There's people that were diagnosed from things from early on because our we're right next to the med center. We have really good medical care here, and that's
Yep.
actually one of our strengths. So if we bring all of the strengths of Houston all together, all at once, nobody can defeat us. We will win the Battle of San Jacinto in 18 minutes
Yeah.
because
No,
we are Houston,
I
Houston
love it. I
Texans.
mean, so well, I guess what I'll have to do is if you could make a tweet after this at some point in time and list off your points, or maybe you already
Yeah,
have, or if you have an article, I'll be sure to share it. I agree with all of it. Like I love it. I mean, these are all questions I had for you, and you basically had it laid out. So that's awesome to see. But I'll probably wrap up here in a minute. But
yeah,
before we do, I guess obviously today was a schedule release. I'm sure
yeah.
you've kind of scoured it over. Just give me like your takeaways and any games you're looking forward to based off of that.
Well, I mean, every team has challenges with their particular schedule. Uh, I don't really like a bye week at week 6. That's a little early. But then again, you're playing the Ravens, you're playing the Titans, which usually is a pretty physical game. So maybe that's, if you have a bye week after the Ravens, maybe that's not completely bad. I prefer Sunday night games,
Yep.
football games versus Monday night games or Thursday night games. I do like how the Thursday night uh, like I like their broadcast a lot. Like I don't know if you've been noticing that just the
Yeah.
quality of the Thursday broadcast is good. I've enjoyed
Yeah, all
that.
the technology and stuff. Yeah, I like it a lot too.
Yeah, so I mean there's going to need to be some planning about, Monday night football. It's work week.
Six p.m. too.
People are going to have to navigate that and but the team and us all need to just kind of work together. Like, I think expectations like some things go over and over again. Like I can see things that have happened in previous years, but they're just dressed up with different names. I think expectations can be really hard that people thought, oh, well, you kicked ass so hard on offense, your first year, you're going to keep on doing that. And um, it didn't happen. And maybe it makes people feel a way that, it's not quite like I like defensive football a lot, but yeah, it was very frustrating not having the kind of offense that you wanted to see. I don't know what to expect for this year's offense because we have new parts. The people that they've brought in or have kept. Lots of people have good things to say about them, but they have to make it work. And I love the urgency that D'Amico Ryan shows for doing
Yep.
things. And it's not stupid urgency because it's real easy to be stupid urgent where you're doing things that are counterproductive, that hurt people. And that he tries to do things in a sharp professional way because when you do that it says things to the people that you have in the building now and it says things to the people that you're going to have in the future. And so yeah, I'm extraordinarily excited for this season, but all of us need to work in the off season to see, okay, what can we do as individuals to help? And the number one thing is, first of all, you handle your own business. Handle your business. Don't rob banks to go get your tickets like that
The
Kansas City
Kansas City
fan.
Chief.
Yeah, like handle your business and let's make 2025 really fun. And like if your intention is to make things really fun and welcoming for everyone, it's beautiful. Now, and it's hard to maintain because, a season has ups and downs and people get grumpy about this, that, or the other thing. But it's kind of like riding the vibes. Like, you have a wave coming, and the wave's going to have challenges in it, but then you ride the good parts. And the only reason why I've stuck with this stuff as long as I have, even though it was sometimes difficult, was just fun. Like, I'm going to keep doing stuff as long as it's fun, and it's fun for me. Like, I really enjoy the people that I've met, because sports attracts just amazing people.
I agree, and that's, basically, I've said that many times on the live stream, but with what I've done, with this social media stuff and whatever I call this, I've gotten to meet people such as yourself and make new friends, and it's been awesome. That's been my favorite part about this whole thing, and
Yeah.
you've basically touched on it. The Texans community is just incredible. So,
And
um,
everybody brings their different things. Like, what you're doing is really hard. Like, it's hard to maintain that over time because you have your life and your work and everything.
mhm,
But if everybody comes together and gives their shine, whatever their shine is,
mhm.
some people are good at doing what you're doing. Some people are good at cooking. Some people are good at, I don't know, swag, or some people are like, there are people that travel to all the road games and are really good at helping other people navigate that. People that have money, throwing tailgates for the people that maybe don't have as much money. Having events where everybody's just welcome to show up at the events. And I know that you've hosted events. You know, the events and things like that are ways that we get to know each other more as people, so that when we have a situation where, hey, there's a road playoff game, we're going to this place or we're going to that place. Now, what we really want is all home playoff games. And
Yes.
then
Yeah.
Traveling Texans goes to San Francisco. Now, I've done San Francisco as a Super Bowl before. I didn't go to the game, but I did all the other stuff. So I am prepared for San Francisco.
We're
I
gonna have to
talked to the
tap on
people.
that intel.
I talked to the people in New Orleans that were there from San Francisco. They're going to have events in that whole area, but um, I have a sense of, like, really, it San Francisco Super Bowl is really super fun,
Yeah,
absolutely fun. There's a lot of cool stuff there. The food's good there. The
we'll be
weather's
there.
fun.
We got a shot. I think we at least make it to the AFC Championship. But you're right. I mean,
You never know.
we
Like, you
need to
have
try and get
no
home field advantage.
no, like, year 3 of the defense, I'm intrigued. Year
Ditto.
1 of the new version offense, I'm intrigued. Like,
Mhm.
like the thing that was so impressive to me year 1 of CJ Stroud was how much I could see him progressing from practice to practice. Like that's really, really unusual. Like not seeing the same mistakes over and again, and just his drive to be better, and how he just looks like a ball delivery machine, like the way he throws the ball. Like, I mean, you see it in games, but what I want to tell everybody out there, that in practice, you just, like, you saw that his rookie year in a way where we've had lots of quarterbacks come through here, and much more experienced quarterbacks than him struggled early on learning a new offense. And so I'm I'm so excited to see what this is, and I'm excited to see all of us come together and make 2025 a positive year to remember.
I'm with you 100%. And, I really appreciate you coming on. I apologize on the bottom. Normally I have a ticker, but I was scrambling today. So if you could tell the people where to find you at, and any work you have coming up, or any other last, things before we sign off here.
Well, this is fascinating to me. You can usually find me on X at Steph Stradley. Uh, I haven't been Instagramming much. I do Facebook. There's a lot of people on Facebook that are in the Texans community, both old school and more recent. I have a friend on Facebook. I have my own blog, which of starting once in a while I'll do something product.
Steph, I think you're kind of breaking up a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, the
Um,
short version is,
there you
I'm
go. Now
not
you're
sure.
back.
Oh, the short version is I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing this year. Like I always just try to fill a niche that's not being met. And my niche right now is just encouraging everybody who has any interest in the Texans to either be on board or get on board. Like it's not like a bandwagon. We are Texans. Like whether you want to be a part of us or not, you might as well be, because being a Texan is cool as hell.
I agree. I agree. Well, Steph, it's been awesome. I'm gonna hang on for just a minute, whenever you're ready, if you could just, I think it's like a leave button up there. I'm just gonna do a couple quick Q&A, and then I'll be wrapping up. This is my second show today, so I've
Oh
had a long
goodness.
day in the Texans content. I did an impromptu one earlier today with
Yeah.
Cecil Shorts during the day, so that was fun as well. So, but yeah, it's been a long day.
All right. Well, I'm out.
All right, Steph, it's good to see you. I appreciate you joining. There it goes. All right, guys. Yeah, well, thank y'all for tuning in. I'll get to some Q&As, and I'll kind of go over the schedule myself, give y'all my thoughts on it. But, shout out Ryan, shout out Brandon, shout out BG, Engineer. Who else we got? AMG Swift on YouTube. Brandon, of course. Eddie, Lance. Appreciate all you guys tuning in. Thanks for all the people on Instagram tuning in. But, yeah, I mean, as far as the schedule goes, I guess my biggest takeaway is that it is not as many primetime games. Only 4. I'm not sure how many we had last year, 5 to 6. I think the big thing was you have to differentiate between primetime and standalone. I kind of consider all standalone games primetime, which would be, like a Saturday game. So I feel like there's less spotlight on us this year, and I feel like it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's kind of a good thing. I think that most fans might agree with that as well. I guess let me know your thoughts on that. But what I'll do is I'll kind of just put up the schedule here, and we can walk through it little by little. Let me see. Let me share my screen right here. Let's see. Share. All right. And let's get my ugly mug up on there somewhere. I don't even know if y'all can see. That's kind of small. Oh, yes. Let's see. How's that? That's better. Shout out Justin says on X, I like our last 4 games. Not a bad end to the year. So, yeah, I guess we can talk about too, the early bye kind of sucks. But, with that late Thursday night game against the Bills, that's kind of like a mini bye. So that kind of offsets. But I will just say, I tweeted about this a minute ago. Let me see if I can pull that up. Let me see what I said. But basically, comparatively speaking, when you compare this to last year, it's a big difference. I mean, this offseason heading into this season this year as opposed to last year. I mean, last year you had, and I enjoyed it. The CJ Stroud media tour, I loved it. Obviously, you look back now after the bad year or the off year or whatever you want to call it. You feel like it may have been a factor. I personally don't think it was that big of a factor. I think it was more so the Slowick slump, but I think it did affect him, and he did need to be humbled a little bit, not just CJ, but the whole team. And that was, I think, the fan base and the team both, like us fans, really didn't know how to handle success, coming off of, some low years, and then now thinking that we're like the highest of the high. So I personally, at least, was like that. I needed to be humbled a little bit and realize, where we really are. So it's like the saying that we've shared a lot is, it's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems. Reality is what lies in between. We weren't this, 3-headed monster. We're going to have a 5,000-yard quarterback, 3 1,000-yard receivers. We also weren't as bad as it feels, but now it's kind of, rectifying itself to kind of leveling out. So, from that standpoint, from fans, from like the hype, from like the media of Stroud, like that's all kind of come down, and it's just like a pendulum, like there's corrections. So last year we overcorrected to saying we were the best thing ever. And then now we had, not as good a year last year. And now I feel like it's overcorrected to say people are sleeping on us, honestly, like at least on offense. But that's better. I would much rather be on this side of the pendulum, being underlooked, underlooked as far as overhyped. And I feel like that's kind of reflected with the schedule. I mean, 4 primetime games is still pretty good, but I like it not being as much as it was last year. And I guess part of it too is the fact that we had like that crazy 10-game 10 days, 3 games in 10 days, like the gauntlet, like that was all like, holiday type games. But that's also good too. We don't have that. So we're not going to get worn down late in the year. Obviously, the schedule is what it was before as far as the opponents. You win your division and you make the playoffs, you're going to have tough opponents. So that's part of the game. It's just a matter of when and what time of the year those games were. Ryan says, I mean, primetime games. He said he's fine with only having 4 of those. Yeah, so I agree. Brandon says 20-0. Facts. That means we get a ring, baby. But yeah, so I like the schedule. I think it's better. I feel like all of us fans, like we said, we all kind of rectified back to like last year. It was new and we wanted more primetime games. Now we're like, please, like, no, we're good. I still like them, and like as Steph said, I agree. I prefer the Sunday night over Monday night, and don't really like Thursday night. But there's only one. No MetLife. It's not a MetLife. A Thursday night game at MetLife we had last year, nonetheless. So finally, we have no MetLife game. Every year we go there, it just beats us to hell playing on concrete out there. But let's just kind of go through it game by game. Week 1 against the Rams, that'll be a great matchup. Obviously we have the storylines. You have Nick Caley, who just came from Sean McVay's offense. That's a great storyline week 1. The protege going against the predecessor. Hopefully we can, answer the bell on that. But you also have the storyline of CJ Stroud, who's a big fan of Sean McVay and Matt Stafford. We had the joint practice with them last year, so there is some familiarity between the two franchises in that regard. And then you talk about home field. We talked about it earlier with Steph. They're not known to have a big home crowd. So, who knows? Maybe Houston takes over. I would like to go to that game. I'm talking to some buddies now. I would love to go there. I think that SoFi Stadium is pretty cool. I think it's like sunken down because I think they're close to like an airport and they had to like be lower. So it's like down in a bowl almost. That would be a cool stadium to go to. Cool game. That's a tough matchup right off the bat as far as the defense are playing. They got a pretty good defensive line with Brandon Fisk, Jared Verse, and they have another good defensive end that I'm blanking on, but what is this? Kobe Turner. So they got a pretty good front four. That'll be a good matchup, but I think we can win it. But I'll kind of go by the games and just talk about them, and then I'll go back afterwards and I'll just do a win-loss for the hell of it. I know it's not something that we all want to do, but Justin says, what are your predictions for wins, losses? I feel like 9 to 10 wins should be where we end up. Yeah, I'll get to it, but I'll say I'm around there a little bit better. But yeah, week 2, Monday night against the Bucks. That's a great matchup. Crazy thing is, like we talked about, it's at 6 p.m. I guess it's, Brandon says Byron Young. Yes, maybe that's who I'm referring to for the Rams defensive line. Is Kobe Turner on there as well? So they got like 4 or 5 legit defensive linemen. And the Rams, honestly, in my opinion, very easily almost could have, would have, should have beaten the Eagles in Philadelphia in the playoffs in like a blizzard. It came down to the final possession to win or lose. And we saw how much of a dominant run the Eagles went on to have the rest of the way. So the Rams are a damn good team. They seem to be kind of going all in this year. And then Ryan says, do you think the newly revamped O-line, obviously moving assets away from us, but with the new direction will be beneficial? I've always thought 5 adequate workers working together could get more done, a lot more than working together. But he says, I'll hang up and listen. Yeah, so basically the O-line, I mean, yes, I do. You can call me crazy, but, based off of the actions of D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio, which has been fire Bobby Slowick and fire Chris Strouser, and then we all assume they're going to go and get all these big name guys in free agency. We didn't for O-line, interior O-line. We all thought that we were going to get these big name interior linemen in the draft. We didn't draft any. So to me, that tells me it's an indictment on Slowick and Strouser. It's an indictment on the coaching and the scheme. And obviously you trade away LT, your best left tackle, your best O-lineman. And yes, so I do agree that you're better having a solid 5 than having, a really good left tackle and a really good this and the rest kind of being whatever. So we are better across the board, and depth wise, we had no depth last year which killed us. So I think they'll be much better. I think the scheme will be much more beneficial. I think we'll air it out a little bit more. I think we'll go 3 and 4 wide more often. I think, we'll have the ability to have hot routes utilized more often. I think that, CJ Stroud will have more command. And, this is from me watching how the Rams have operated. This is from me listening to the pressers from D'Amico and Nick Caley, mainly the introductory one, very intently, listening to the language that D'Amico used. Hey, this is why I fired Bobby. So now when I hire someone new, I want what he didn't do, which was adapt and adjust and find someone who will. And then when you listen to Nick Caley talk, he said everything that you wanted to hear. So I think this offense is going to kick ass next year. And this goes back to me, what I just said a minute ago. We got humbled as fans last year. We thought we were hot shit, and then we got embarrassed. And so now we're kind of scared to be confident again. But I think this offense is going to kick ass. They're going to give CJ Stroud all the keys to the car. They're going to let him do what he wants. If you look at CJ Stroud at Ohio State, he had that ability. He had control of the offense with Ryan Day. And you listen to Nick Caley. He says, I'm going to build my offense around my personnel, around the strengths of my players, around my quarterback, as opposed to the other way around, which we just saw, which I've said before was not Bobby Slowick's fault. He was a new coach. He only knew one scheme. And unfortunately, the scheme he knew was kind of rigid to where it took certain types of players to fit in it, or it took time to teach it. Whereas now you have the opposite approach is we're coming in, with an amoeba. Like Caley has experience with the McVay offense, which is somewhat of an offshoot of the Shanahan, but also was in New England with Josh McDaniels and, can kind of empower players as far as receivers having hot routes and quarterbacks making audibles and this and that. So, there's a lot more flexibility. So now, and this is, you hear D'Amico talking about, he's mentioned this several times about Nick Caley making the Houston Texans offense. And so there's no preset determination. I'm going to run this. He's evaluating the personnel we have. So first we have the existing personnel from the roster and then free agency. So that was the first step. And then now the draft and then, assemble it and then figure it out. And so it will be an ever evolving process. And I talked about this with Cecil Shorts earlier. The other part of that too is the way we've loaded up on personnel. We can also run, in my opinion, a multitude of different packages or styles of offense. We could go 4 wide. We could go 5 wide. We could go, 3 tight ends, 13 personnel. We could go multiple running backs. So I feel like we have the ability to mix it up. So I am very confident in the offense and how they'll do. So Brandon says, feels like we are deeper in every single position group. Facts. I mean, wide receiver, we're stacked up. That's been an issue for us the past couple of years going into playoffs, guys getting hurt. And that's been, while there's been a lot of focus last year on the O-line struggling, a big part of the struggles too were the receivers. When guys got hurt, we now were having guys thrust into that role that weren't reliable. They're running the wrong routes, that were not making the right reads, dropping passes, et cetera, et cetera. So that stuff you may not really know just like from the bird's eye view, but that was definitely a factor. So running back, we got more depth. O-line, we got depth at every position. I mean, once Kenyon Green was a flop last year, we had to rely on Kendrick Green, and then you threw in Shaq Mason as a flop. Now, if we were to have 2 guys be a flop at left guard and right guard, we still have a bunch of options. So that's the big thing. So I agree with Brandon on that, but I'm on my soapbox right now. I'm getting it all out. Let's see. So back to the schedule. Yeah. So you know what? I'll say the record as we go. I'm an optimistic fan. I hate to say losses when I do these, and y'all probably will make fun of me for being, too rosy-eyed, but that's just how I am. So I want to say win for the Rams, but for the sake of it, we'll say loss. First game, but there is the element too where Nick Caley knows Sean McVay, dude. So we could have an edge there, but I'll say loss because a lot of people are going to say loss. I'll say loss, 0-1. And then week 2, Bucks at home, Monday night, win. That will also be, I'm trying to think of, Todd Bowles. I was trying to think of what's his face, the guy that went to the Jags, Liam Cohen. I think he might have had a connection with Caley, but I guess there's really, the connection on the Bucks game, it's the rematch of the game of the Stroud game that like made him the man, the comeback with 40 seconds left or whatever it was, no timeout. So that'll be fun there. I will say the over-under on that game is probably going to be 50.5, and I'm probably going to hammer it because it's going to be a high-scoring game. So 1-1, and then Jags. And I will say, too, as I go through this, obviously We said it last year, but again, the big thing is, we need to try and get as much home field advantage as we can if we want to be a serious Super Bowl contender. And I want to say it was after the Kansas City Chiefs lost in the divisional round. Will Anderson Jr. pointed this out right away. He said, we have to win those games that we're supposed to win, like the Titans and the Jets. And he said we need to win those so that way we're not having to be in this position to go on the road for these games. So I agree, and I think they will. I think they were a young team learning. Obviously, the offense stunk it up. I think we take care of business. So 1-1 after a Monday night win, and then at Jacksonville, I still think there's a lot of hype around them, but I still think Trevor Lawrence sucks. I think he's overrated. He might perform better with the new offense, new scheme. But I mean, I still think his arm talent isn't great. He was inaccurate. I don't think it was like a mental thing or protection. So we'll win that one. So it'll be 2-1. And then now you got Cam Ward and the Titans at home. And I'm trying to think of storylines. I mean, it's Cam Ward. He's from West Columbia, UIW. So I think we win that game. That's just another nooner snoozer. And so now we're 3-1, and then we'll go at Baltimore. I think we can win that game, but I'm going to say loss. I mean, that's an easy loss to pick right there. We'll probably lose. That'll be a tough one to win, but so that would put us at 3-2 to start the year, and then now we got a bye. So, this bye would have been nice last year this early if we were struggling that bad on offense and maybe trying to figure things out. But is what it is. It's kind of a quick bye. It sucks, but last year we had the late bye. This year we have the early bye. And then not only do we have a bye, but coming off of the bye, the next game's on Monday. So it's like a long bye. So, and the Monday night game is at Seattle, which is at 9 p.m., which is another weird wrinkle in the schedule. So, but that's a game we should definitely win. I'm trying to think of the storylines, and I don't know how or why that is a primetime game. Does anybody know why that's a primetime game? Like, what has Seattle done? Why Seattle versus Houston? I mean, Dwayne Brown is the only connection I can think of. I mean, I'm trying to think of why that's okay, so who's their head coach now? Why am I not? Is it Mike McDonald still their head coach? I mean, what's the connection there? Sam Darnold, because he beat us last year at the Vikings, is now there. Anyway, so we'll win that one. That'll put us at 1, 2, 3, 4-2. And then we we have San Francisco at home with the H-Town jerseys. And my buddy said that's going to be like the ugliest meshing of uniforms. But yeah, you got H-Town blue and then the Niners colors there. But yeah, let me get to a couple comments real quick. Let's see. Ryan says over under on DB interceptions plus personal foul penalties. I'm setting at 43.5. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of both for sure. Brandon says Rams look like they blow out some teams but struggle against tough defenses, and we are a tough defensive team. Yeah, I think we could definitely beat them. I'm picking the L for the sake of it for not being a complete homer. And he says they lost to the Dolphins last year. Yeah, and it's just NFL in general, man. It's week to week. It's really just matchups, health. Ryan says they couldn't figure out the offense even after last year's late bye. Yeah. I'm saying they might have needed it earlier to like fire him or something. Brandon says Seattle versus Houston is a very odd choice. Agree, man. It makes no sense. Ryan says City is most likely to be submerged by 6 foot of water in 2073. It's a sea battle, I guess, is what you could call it. S. Diaz on IG says 3 home games in the last 4 weeks. And he says not having 3 games in 10 days has me blessing. Facts. I agree. Texans Fan 81 on IG says we are going to be a whole lot better. I agree. He also says I like we start off non-conference and non-divisional. That's a good point. Yeah, good call out. Kind of ease yourself into the schedule. And if you look at the schedule, I mean, we just went through however many games. You have Rams and Ravens, and then the other are 2. And the Bucks is kind of a tough game, so it's pretty even between the first 6 games. You have like 3 good to great opponents and 3 meh to bad opponents. So I mean, worst case scenario, you're 3-3. I think we're more so 4-2, potentially 5-1. But I'll say 4-2. And then the Niners, I mean, that's going to be a question mark. I mean, obviously they're the Niners. They've been historically good, but with this one, with last year, that they were terrible, but it's also one of those things like once things started getting bad, it got worse. Christian McCaffrey got hurt. That'll be an interesting matchup. That's D'Amico. I mean, why isn't that a primetime game? You got D'Amico playing against his old coach in Shanahan. You got the Shanahan tie. Shanahan used to coach for Houston. I mean, what are we doing here? Said you put the frickin' Seahawks as one. But I think we win that game. I mean, I think the Niners are starting to descend, and I think that's a good matchup for us. Just like, we might have some advantage with Kaylee going up against his former team in the Rams. We now have, D'Amico going up against Shanahan. He knows that offense. We know that offense. That offense sucks. That scheme. We're going to shut that shit down. We're going to beat their ass. We will be 5-2 now. And then you got the Broncos. Let me see. Justin says, blessing or stressing with our schedule. I'm blessing, man. I like it. And then Brandon says, they didn't good job alternating tough and easier opponents. Yeah, it's kind of even flowing. So next game after that, Broncos. You talk about sophomore slumps. I didn't really think it was a thing, I thought Stroud was going to be impervious to it, which I still don't think personally. He played worse, but I don't think he had a sophomore slump. I think it was more Bobby Slowick had a sophomore slump play calling. But regardless, I will admit, yes, it is harder for quarterbacks to do what they did in year one, again in year two, whether it's their OC or they themselves. So this spot here, you got Bo Nix, who, he played pretty well at the end. I think he's good, but I think he got overhyped. I think a lot of it's coaching from Sean Payton. He has a great OC who kind of knew how to help him out. I mean, he was up and down. He's like a glorified game manager. He's good, but in my opinion, especially late in the year, watching him, I watch every game, and there were some games where they could have really blown teams out or won when they lost if he would just hit receivers, man. I mean, he uses his legs a lot, which kind of helps them out, but I think that's a smash spot for us. I think we win that. So that's a 3-game winning streak, which puts us at whatever in 2. So 6-2. That's a good start. And then, I'm going to say it now. I think we sweep the division. I mean, I said it last year, and I think the only game we did lose was that one game to the Titans. So we should have swept the division, but played the Jags at home. So we have 3 games in a row at home, which is crazy. So, I mean, this schedule is pretty cush for us. I mean, you got the early bye with the extra day off. So, it'll be, I think it's important to, in that first first 5 games, to only lose 1 game between the Rams, Bucks, and Ravens, and you're sitting pretty. Well, I put us at 2 losses there, but if you only lose 1 and then have time to reset and reload again for the back half of the year, man, I love this schedule, dude. I'm looking at it more and more. Okay. So yeah, but then we have 3 home games in a row, and albeit, not that hard of home games. I guess it's hard to tell now. I shouldn't speak too heavily on that. We all get obsessed on strength of schedule, but teams change, obviously, with free agency and the draft, and injuries happen. But as it stands now, Niners could be a playoff team again, but we don't know what they are. And then the Broncos, they were a low-end playoff team last year. I don't know if they reached that same level or not. Obviously, they have a great defense, but I'm not scared of their offense. I'm not scared of Bo Nix. And then, yeah, the freaking Jags at home. I mean, we are. I said we beat them earlier on the road. I'm not scared of the Jags, dude. And then and then you got the Titans. So I mean, the Titans on the road. I'll say that's a win too. So let me go back now. So we have 2 losses. Whatever the 10. So 10 games with 2 losses. I have us at 8-2 right now. Let's see here. Larry Payton's there. Forrest McWhorter, we be blessing. Appreciate it, man. Larry says, I disagree. Shanahan's scheme doesn't suck. Slowick lacks a good feel for the game, and O-line personnel didn't fit scheme. I mean, that's fair. That's definitely fair. The players did not fit the scheme, yes. And, maybe obviously Slowick was young, didn't adjust. But, I mean, I will say last year, though, The Niners struggled, and they got beat with a lot of the same stuff we got beat with, like where their O-line looked bad, but it was just protection issues off of basic miscommunications. And the Dolphins look bad. I mean, I know it's nitpicky, but I mean, that's fair. Like, it's been around, but I do feel like something happened last year where defenses figured out how to crack the code, whether it's just like the way the built-in rules were with like the O-line and protection, this whole notion with the Shanahan scheme about them trying to make it easier for their quarterback by giving them less to do, which in essence does the opposite and makes it harder for them by not giving them control. But I will concede to your points and agree. But I think that the scheme is not what it used to be, especially if you don't have a dominant run game, which the Niners do. But I think we have a great run defense, and I think we definitely have an advantage there with D'Amico having been around the system his whole career. We probably know like their tendencies. We probably know like their verbiage. There's probably a big advantage there. Brandon says another breakdown I would do is the hardest defenses we will face and how spread out they are in this schedule and where offense may make adjustments. I like that. That could be like a video or a stream or whatever. And if you go back to Kaylee's opening presser, which some people I disagree with, took his comments in a negative light when he said that we will be a game plan offense. Basically, we will adapt week to week based off of which defense we're playing, which is what Brandon is saying, and modify our game plan to attack their weaknesses in that way. That's a good thing. So, I mean, if you have a team that's terrible against the run, all right, we're going to pound the rock. I mean, we saw it with Nick Cayley at the Patriots when they ran, the ball like 90% of the time against Buffalo in a win game. That's a weather element, but still, I mean, if you can do that, I think that's a good thing. I will definitely have to do that. Justin says, I think our O-line could cost us a few W's that we should have on paper. That's the big wild card for me. That's fair. Call me delusional, but I think the O-line will be much better than last year. I don't think it's going to be elite, but I don't think they need to be elite. I mean, you look at our defense. I've said it time and time again. I'll say it again. Last year, we had a Super Bowl caliber defense. All we needed was just, at the very worst, an average offense. Average to above average offense, and we would have been legit Super Bowl contenders. Look at the Chiefs game. It was still a one-possession game late in the fourth. We had a chance to go tie it, right? I mean, with a terrible freaking offense, with a defense that dominated, that constantly got stops for you, that constantly gave you turnovers, that constantly gave you the ball in the opponent's territory, and you didn't do jack with it. So, I mean, now if you just are marginally better, which I think will be way better on offense, I'm sorry. I've been kind of holding in, like trying not to be super hype, based off of last year doing this, but I feel really good about this team, man. Brandon says tough defenses were our Achilles heel last few years. Yep. Yeah. And that's because we had an offense, that was, we're going to run this no matter what, no matter what you do. And that's what drove me crazy is like Slowick is young and innovative or, young and whatever. And so you would think, okay, we're like adaptive, but like, again, he only knew one scheme and was limited, whatever. But that did not happen. Like it came off to me like he was that typical, if y'all ever played sports or football, you all had like that one, you come across a coach who's like an old hard-headed coach and he thinks you can just outman the person in front of you no matter what, like whether you're stronger or just willpower, like we're going to line up and make them stop it. Like, no, like if they're stopping it, then freaking run something else. And then they stop that. Then you do this. Like it's a game of cat and mouse. So it's a game of adjustments. But yeah, let's see. Jesse Vargas, the old Legion of Boom versus the new Legion of Swarm. That's a good one. Is that Seattle and Houston? Yep. I think we'll rightfully take that crown. And then Forrest says on Facebook, shout out Facebook, my Facebook fam, if y'all could, please reshare my stream and any content. It's growing. I enjoy interacting on there. I'm like relatively new there. I've been there like 6 months. I'm at 6,100 subscriber followers on Facebook. So shout out my Facebook fam. Forrest says, if these boys are allowed to adjust in game, then we won't even care that our O-line is subpar. Yes. Thank you. Exactly. And then I will again go back to look at what we did in CJ's first year with an O-line that's probably worse than what we have now as far as, who was on the field. It was makeshift due to injuries. So there's that part of it too. I mean, just because we don't have these big name guys doesn't mean they're going to suck. I mean, we saw what the big name guys did last year, highly drafted, highly paid. It didn't work out. So it's just what we think right now. So I think we got to give them the benefit of the doubt. Brandon says the same. Yeah, let's see. Larry says, I agree that scheme is losing some dominance and rules change that remove backside cut blocks also hurt. Yeah, and so like the big thing that I noticed with the Shanahan scheme is, the thing that made it thrive specifically, I'm talking way too fast, in the pass game is the condensed formations. They ran them at like a crazy high rate. But the thing I noticed, obviously, with the Texans is as early as week 2 or 3 against the Vikings, those condensed formations, you're inviting defenders in the box, safeties and nickel corners and corners are now like right next to the ball. And so you bring them all in and then one would blitz. And, those blitzes would kill us. I mean, you now have like Dalton Schultz, like not knowing, do I block him? Do I run a route? What do I do? And same thing with the receiver. That was one big thing I feel like defenses adjusted on. It must have been some kind of fundamental, mishap within like the rules. Or maybe I'm just overthinking it, but that's just, at least the Texans for sure. Justin said, we're plus 110 to win the AFC South right now. I like that bet a lot. What? Plus 110? Dude, where do you see that at? And who is the next highest odds? Because that is insane. That's a joke, dude. I guess because we have a tough schedule. Larry says, I'm encouraged that the Texans will be healthy all season and playoff run. I agree. And then at the very least, Larry, like we've talked about on here, and I'm sure we all think we have more depth. So even if we aren't as healthy, our second and third string is going to be better than what it was. And we have options and versatility, guys that can play all over. Yes, the O-line will and should be much better. Brandon says Broncos versus Texans is no fly zone versus Clamp City. Yeah, that game's going to be like 3-0. Forrest says, I got you, brother. H-Town, appreciate it. But yeah, back to the schedule. Let me check IG real quick. Make sure I didn't miss any on IG. I think we're good over there. But yeah, back to the schedule. We left off on, so that, I have us on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 game win streak heading into the Bills Thursday night game on Amazon at home again. And again, like, I'll have to revise this. And there are some fluky losses each year. But I don't know. I feel like we won't lose the BS games this year. I think we can and will win. Man, I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this because I don't want to say we're going to lose to the Bills. I mean, we saw what it was like last year at NRG against Josh Allen, the MVP, shut his ass down. What was it? 9 for 30, right? Was that what it was? 9 for 30? Made him look silly. God, I mean, I'll put a loss up there just to be fair, but like I think we're very live in that game at home. I mean, and I don't know if y'all have been in the games, but like now that we're good, and if we have a good team and defense is balling and offense is doing okay, that place is freaking rocking, dude. Like it is a legit. That Bills game was so loud, had a massive factor on it. And again, that game became close, but that game should have been a 20 to 30 point win by us. The defense absolutely dominated. Offense couldn't do jack, and we still won, but it came down to the wire. And so I think this year, those games, like that one, the Lions game, which we lost, he had 5 turnovers and lost. Now with a marginally better offense at the very worst, which I think will be way better, those games now become wins to like blowouts. So that's what's got me hype. Let's see. And then Justin says DraftKings actually has the Texans at plus 115. I'm about to go run to the bank or the casino right now. Brandon says, and Frank Ross got his guys back. Yep, and he's probably got some new toys as well. And then Justin says Jags are second at plus 275. Yeah, okay. I guess that makes sense. I mean, normally when you're like the favorite with 4 teams, your odds aren't going to be in the minuses, but that's still even money pretty much. It's Hakil says we can win all day. Facts. Jesse Vargas, do you think the defense will regress a bit due to the film they have now, or no shot? Last year gave me PTSD a bit. And so I think you're asking like if our defense will be worse because opposing offensive coordinators have film on our defense. Hell no, dude. I mean, if there's anything that we know, and if you listen and just watch D'Amico Ryans, which last year offense wasn't adaptive and dynamic. D'Amico is a freaking mastermind on defense, dude. Like, if it comes down to a big game and he has to like prepare for a game plan, he can come up with some of the most creative game plans. Like Josh Allen 9 for 30, Jared Goff 5 interceptions. He was an MVP candidate. Mahomes was held in check for the most part when healthy, but defense is banged up. I'm trying to think. There was Tua, who was playing well at the time, made him look silly. And so that's with banged up defenses too. So again, just like on offense, like O-line injuries, whatever, receiver injuries, and then, it goes to shit. Defense, secondary, it was kind of thin, and now we stacked that bitch up. So now we have depth on defense in the secondary. Last year, what killed us late in the year was, that star safety role, which is like the nickel that Petrie was playing, which is, in my opinion, more of a linebacker. Once he went down, I was like, oh shit. Okay, but we got Jimmy, so it's it's still good, but it's not like a steep fall off. But it's not Petrie, but like we can survive with this. And then Jimmy gets hurt, and so after that, that changed the whole dynamic. So we went from having two pretty good star safety role spot guys to now they're both gone to we can't run the defense that D'Amico wants to. Having like that versatile safety slash linebacker hybrid piece for D'Amico Ryans allows him to unlock so much. Like we saw it with Jalen Petrie, like where he's in around the line of scrimmage, he's motioning, delayed blitzing, all this stuff, running from side to side, just causing chaos, dude. Like any opposing quarterback, if they see Petrie, they're freaking out. Like, what's this guy going to do? Where's he going to be? So at the very least, he just distracts the defense. But if he were to get hurt again, you still have Jimmy. Now you have CJ Gardner-Johnson, who should play the high safety, strong safety, but he can now rotate down in there if he needs to. Jalen Reed is somebody that can play. Both the rookies we got can both play that role as well. So you now have like 5 viable options for that spot. You're more loaded at, another part too was the fallout from that was, okay, now this guy gets hurt. Like Lassiter played against Kansas City when Jimmy got hurt. Some of that, he can play that too. Some of that star role, nickel role a little bit. But when you did that, you supplanted. Is that a word? Now your cornerback 2 was Jeff Okudah, who was getting cooked. But now we got more depth. We got Darby, and now we drafted, obviously the guy out of USC, Jalen Reed, or Jalen Smith. I'm sorry. There's so many Jalens. But anyways, we got depth all across the secondary. So to answer your question, long answer to your very simple question is I do not think they will regress. I think they will improve. I think they will go from a top 3 to a top 1 defense. I think it could be a historic defense. Maybe I'm, again, just the too hype, rosy-eyed fan, but like this could be a historic defense. And a big part of why the defense can be better is because the offense will be better. As good as the defense was, they kept getting put in tough position. They could only bail the offense out so many times. And like it has to be deflating when you get 5 turnovers and the offense just fucks it up, but now you get a turnover and the offense scores. They score a touchdown and now you're up 2-3 scores. And now it snowballs. Like you have one of, if not the best defensive line pass rush with Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson Jr., Jarrell Taylor, you just got from the Bears, very underrated. Derek Barnett, very underrated. Danico Autry, Mario Edwards, Foley Fatukasi, Tim Settle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's just your front 4. Now you have these guys with a multiple score lead with the opposing offense and a known passing down, and you just pin your ears back and go. I mean, so I think it could be like how the Lions were last year. The Lions were just blowing teams out. I think that could be us this year. Like, call me crazy, call me dumb. I thought last year was the year that we would make that jump because the first year with D'Amico Ryan, CJ Stroud, that's how I came up with my name, the Houston Stressans. We always play with our food. No matter what, the game came down to the wire. I thought they would take the jump next year and kind of, quit playing with their food and put opponents away. Didn't happen. I think this year is the year that we do that. and it may take time, but I think we can actually finally have some of these stress-free blowout games, which would be nice because it feels like every game came down the wire. And I get it; it's the NFL. There's parity, everybody's good, but as I said, the Lions showed you can be a good team that can just dominate. Brandon says, "Call me crazy. The Ravens Christmas game could have easily swung the other way. We let them stop us on stupid fourth downs and Slovik's offense multiple times, and we had multiple key defenders out." I agree. I mean, call me Mr. Brightside. I'm always going to see the bright side, but yeah, I mean, things snowball. Like there's definitely like tipping points in games where you're like close to getting out of hand, and you make some desperate moves, and it goes the other way, and next thing you know, it just like I said like earlier, snowballing. Like if you get up to a couple scores, now you start pressing on one end, and then the other team can just take advantage of that. So I agree, man. I mean, margin for error isn't far off. Justin says this is the year we finally make the AFC Championship game. He's asking me, and I think it is. Yes, yes. I think we do. Chris Tucker on Facebook. Shout out, Chris. Thanks for tuning in on Facebook, man. Tell your Facebook friends to feel free to tune in. I go live every Wednesday at 9. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate Facebook as well. He said, "I'm so ready for the schedule. As a Texans fan in LA, I get 2 games at SoFi." Oh, that's dope, man. I'll have to hit you up. I want to try to make it to at least one of those. So it looks like an awesome stadium. Brandon says, "So I don't think this year's Ravens game will be as bad." Yeah, I don't think so either. And, this is the 3rd year of this team, even though it's a new offense, but we've taken our lumps. We've played the Ravens how many times now, and most of the games hung in there, so I think we're maturing, and I think the Ravens kind of missed their window, in my opinion. I mean, they may still, have a chance at a Super Bowl, but I thought not last year, but the year before was like their real shot. Like I thought they were the best team, and they played terrible in the AFC Championship game at home, and still almost beat the Chiefs. I thought that was their year. So, but yeah, I definitely think that we got a shot. Man, I've had all this info, talking way too fast. Got cotton mouth. Give me a second. Whole schedule release day. All right, let's get back to it. So, where we at? Where we at now? We just, I said we'd lose to the Bills. I freaking hate saying that. I'm just saying it we'll just say it for now. I'll do like an official one later, but we'll go back in a minute and see what that brings us to. But let's see. Next game at home against the Colts, Sunday at noon. Win. Who's even their quarterback right now? Anthony Richardson, probably not starting for them by then. That franchise is going in the wrong direction. Much better team. And let's see. All right, man. I got a bunch of people on Facebook tuning in. I love that. If y'all don't mind, is it because y'all found me recently and it just popped up? Like, let me know how you found the stream. Like, this is awesome because now it's like unlocking a new audience for me, and I really appreciate it. Ethan Weber on Facebook says, "Love that we're playing in Baltimore early before it's super cold." That's a great call out. Wish KC's Sunday night fame was earlier in the season to avoid cold, but still shouldn't be as bad as that frigid playoff game in KC. Great points. Yes, those are great points. So, there's not a lot of teams it looks like that could be cold weather teams. I mean, Baltimore and Buffalo, but that's at home. But yeah, I mean, I guess Kansas City and Baltimore are the only 2 that could be cold. And then, the Chiefs is December 7th. And I think that's like around when we played them last year around that time in Kansas City. So, but yeah, I think it's, I think it's good to kind of experience that late still, because you may potentially have to have that type of playoff game on the road in the playoffs. So this could be like the best of both worlds. So yeah, we win the Colts game. Now we're on the Chiefs game, which is a Saturday game, and it is Saturday game, and it's at 7:20 p.m. So it's night, so it will be cold more than likely. But I think I guess I don't really know Kansas City weather, but I would assume December 7th it could be like 40s, 50s. It could be like 30s, 20s. But regardless, I think it'll be good for us. I thought it helped us last year. Or did we play any cold ones on the stretch? I mean, this will be good because I hope it's cold because we lost in that environment last year, and I think the weather played a big factor. Kaimi, I guess the win was worse than we thought. I think he deserves some onus, but how much of that was the coaching? Like, I feel like that wasn't talked about enough. Is like that playoff game against Kansas City. Like, could you imagine being a coach and you're freezing your ass off and you never freeze your ass off, and now you're like making these crazy decisions in the biggest game of your life, and you could hesitate some, you could literally freeze up mentally and physically. You can't tell me the weather played a factor on the coaching staff. So now D'Amico has that experience. I hope that game is more of that, so you get more experience fresh on your mind before you go into the playoffs. Hopefully not on the road. Hopefully your record's good, but if you do, you can kind of lean back on that. Not only the players, but the staff. I mean, just everyone involved. The kicking game obviously was a big one, but my point there was like, I don't think we should have. I forget, the first field goal that Kaimi was asked to kick. Like, I want to say like he shouldn't have kicked it because of the wind was worse than what we thought, and we didn't know. But then now you had him kick it, and now he's all screwed in the head because you're a kicker and you're like, you had this bad thing happen. So it's maybe nitpicky in hindsight, but that's one small thing. So, um, long story short, I'm hoping it is a little bit cold there. So Chris says, I got you on Twitter, but was scrolling Facebook. Awesome, man. At Texas Tucker. Appreciate that, bro. Yeah. So, I mean, any of y'all, if y'all know me from one platform, whether it's Twitter at Texans Commenter or at Texans Commenter on TikTok or on YouTube, or if you know me from Instagram at Houston Stressans or Facebook at Houston Stressans, and you have any of the other ones, please, if you don't mind, just follow me on the other ones, whether you use it or not. And if anybody here does not have Instagram, if you could, let me see if I could find it. Damn. Let me see if I can just open up again. So if anybody in here does not have Instagram and you want to do me a solid and make an Instagram through a link through my profile, it would help me out. Let me see. How do I share? There we go. I'll drop it in the chat right here. I'm not sure how it works, but they said, they help you out. Make it and forget about it. That would be a solid there. Chris says KC in December is going to be colder than a witch's titty in a brass brawl, brother. Yeah, I mean, it'll be all right. I want it to be cold. I don't think it's going to be like zeros, but like 20 to 30. I mean, shit, that's cold, but like football players are used to that shit. Like once your body's warm, man, you're good. Brandon says we also brought in a lot of guys from the Big Ten, though, so they should be fine with the cold. Good point. Good call out. But yeah, I didn't know. That's cool. I can do my own little comment there. Primo Looks, there you go. What's up, man? I saw you earlier on the IG during the interview. Not sure if you saw me shout you out, but if y'all don't, check out Primo Looks on IG. He makes good content. Thanks for tuning in, bro. But yeah, back to the schedule. So we'll say L on the Chiefs, and then now we're on Cardinals. I think the Cardinals, they're an average to slightly below average team. I don't know. They're a wild card. I don't know what they'll be next year. They may be done by then. So I'll give us a win there. Our home schedule is pretty easy, dude. I mean, the hardest team we've played by our home schedule is Cush. We could easily go undefeated at home. The hardest home opponents would be Buffalo, and then Tampa, and then San Francisco or Denver. I mean, so you play like one really good team who I think the Bills, I think they're not as elite as people think. I mean, we beat their ass last year, and, I thought we would have beat them if we beat the Chiefs again. But anyhow, the home schedule is not that bad. And so we beat the Cardinals at home, which is a Sunday. And then let's see, you go to another home game against the Raiders. That's a win. That'll be cool to put it on Chip Kelly, but I mean, can't imagine, they might be hanging around 500, maybe best case there with Geno. I think Geno's, solid, but either they're around 500 fighting for a playoff spot or they're terrible. And then you got the Chargers game, which is TBD, which can be flexed into a Saturday game. I think it's like us and like 3 or 4 other games, and only 2 of those will be. I would imagine this game gets flexed to a Saturday, so that could be essentially 5 primetime games, depending on what you call primetime. But that would be a rematch of the wild card playoffs, but this time it's in LA. Um, a kind of a benefit for us. We'll have already played at LA early in the year, so we'll be familiar with the layout, the field, all that stuff. So the travel, that's kind of an advantage there. Just realizing that, but I can't remember what I said when I went through this my first time, but I'll just say lost there. We're better than them. And then Colts at home win. I'm hoping that last game against the Colts is like meaningless for us and we rest our starters. And then if you were to throw a loss out there, you can make that a loss. But let me just run back through and count some wins real quick. 1, 2. Let's say I'll just do the record: 0-1, 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2. 4-2, 5-2, 6-2, 7-2, 8-2, 8-3, 9-3, 9-4, 10-4, 11-4, 11-5, 12-5. Yeah, no, I think we can definitely win 13 games. And just to refresh the memory, were we 11 or 10 wins last year? Let me see if we can figure that out. NFL. Go to Texans. Checking it out. My memory is terrible. Let's go to 2024. So last year we were what? Where's the record at? We were 10-7 last year. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, we could definitely win 11 games. I think our over-under is at 10.5 with Vegas. Let me see if I can pull that up. Texans win total Vegas odds. Let's go to Texans. Bro, they got us at 9.5. Hammer the AFC South for even money. They got even money for us to get 10 wins. I think 10 might, I would say 9 is our floor, but like 10 might be the floor. Again, I'm optimistic. I'm delusional, but I think we for sure get 11, could be up to 13. I'm really optimistic, man. Like I haven't really honestly like looked at the schedule, like the opponents that much until now. And like really like diving into it, like I feel good, man. Like I don't know how y'all feel. Like if I'm acting crazy, tell me, but I understand too, like I mentioned, we learned from last year overhyping, but I feel good, dude. I'm not going to let last year, dictate how I genuinely feel about this year. I feel great. I think it's going to be awesome. Harrison Rosenthal on Facebook. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we do against the division this year. Seen a lot of talk about going 6-0 against the South, but we all know how gritty those games can get. Yeah, I think we could easily go 6-0. Like, this is me being dumb and cocky, but I could see us losing that last game against the Colts. If we're in a position where we're not fighting for any seeding, like we're kind of locked in where we're at. I mean, maybe they could lose a game. They should definitely sweep Titans. Like Cam Ward's a stud, but he's a rookie, so he'll have his flashes. I don't think their team or roster overall is still that great. So you should definitely win those two. I mean, maybe you win 1 out of 2 versus the Jags or Colts. Like, I guess the Colts have like a decent roster, like O-line, def. I mean, no. I mean, you should win both games against the Colts. I mean, maybe you lose one against the Jags. Like, maybe their roster's better. But they got a first-time head coach. I mean, yeah. I mean, at the max, we should lose 1 game in the division unless we lose one early, and then that late game is meaningless against the Colts. But I think it was. Let me just double check. But I think last year was just. Let's see. Last year, why am I looking at NBA? NFL scores. NFL schedule. I don't know if y'all are golf guys, but the PGA Championship is tomorrow. I'm excited about that. Let's see. What am I doing? Let's go to Texans. And I want to look at our schedule last year. Let's see here. NFL Texans. So 1-0 against the Colts, 1-0 against the Jags, 2-0 against the Jags. And we had a lot of our we won both against the Colts, both against the Jags. Yeah, so I mean, we lost one last year and it was a shit game that we still almost won against the Titans. And that's with the terrible offense last year. So I think max one loss in the division, should definitely sweep unless, again, that last Colts game doesn't matter. Maybe I sound like an idiot and being cocky, but that's just how I feel personally. Brandon, Bucks, Broncos, and Bills all lost to us last time they came to NRG. Good call out. Ethan Weber, I'm ready for redemption in these primetime games. I feel like our primetime games last year didn't go all that well, mainly Jets and Lions games. Yeah, man, it sucked. Like, we had our first good year in a while and everything is looking great. We got this badass schedule. We all wanted all the primetime games, and looking at it here, I mean, we won the Bears one early, and honestly, looking back, that's kind of an ugly win. That's kind of what we did all year. We should have dominated that. I mean, we did dominate that game, but offense didn't play well. That was the first little precursor to what was to come, even though Stroud threw for 260. But the other primetime games, I'm trying to see here. New York was the next one. They all came in a bunch too. So we had a primetime game against Chicago week 2. And then I'm pretty sure we didn't have another primetime game until week 9 against the Jets. And then it was a Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. So we had 3 in a row. And, obviously New York went bad, and Detroit, that was such a pivotal game. That kind of changed the whole year, in my opinion. That could have been a dominant, impressive win against the best team in the league at the time, right? Instead, it was an epic meltdown and collapse, and the Lions are the best thing ever, and we're trash. And it kind of bled into how the rest of our year went. But, even the Cowboys game, after that, everyone was sour on the team, and we couldn't even enjoy that win, which was a nice win. We all thought Dallas was absolutely terrible, which they were bad, but they weren't as bad as we thought. And we handled business 34-10, even though, again, it was a defense dominated type of deal. But still, I feel like we couldn't really enjoy that win because we were still mad about the Detroit loss, and we thought Dallas wasn't shit. So, but then, the other primetime game was the standalone Kansas City game we lost. And then obviously Christmas Day, Baltimore. So, I mean, 1, 2, we'll just say standalone games. We were 1-0 against Chicago, and then 1-1 we lost to New York. 1-2 we lost to Detroit. 2-2 we beat Dallas, and then standalone in Kansas City. 2-3 we lost. Baltimore 2-4 we lost, and then if you want to count playoffs, Chargers 3-4, Kansas City 3-5. So yeah, and the losses were bad. Brandon says 10. I'm not sure what 10 is. He says, and 3 of those losses were within a couple of points. Justin says, been drinking way too much Texans Kool-Aid, LOL. Yeah, man, I'm a homer, dude. But I'm also I believe this shit, dude. I'm not just saying it just because and I know a lot of people don't think that way. Oh, Brandon says 10 wins. And then Brandon says 10 plus 3 just so it happens to be 13. And then Harrison Rosenthal says, agreed, defense should eat Cam Ward and Colts alive. To be honest, Jags can get weird. LOL. Yeah, that's a weird franchise right now with their GM, the chat GMPT. Brandon says, you messed up if you're getting beat by Calvin Ridley and Tyler Lockett. Facts. Justin, love golf. Let's hit the link sometime, brother. Yeah, man, shoot me a DM. I would love to. I was in Cancun last weekend for my sister-in-law's 30th birthday, and I went way too hard the first day. I posted on my private socials, but passed out butt naked in the bathroom, throwing up all night first night. Yeah, it was bad. And then I had a tea time the next day at a Barrel Star Cancun, like 90-degree weather. And I shot like really good for me. I hadn't really played much this year and didn't know what was going to happen. Hungover as shit. And so, yeah, now I'm like itching to get back out there. But let me know, man. I'll be down to golf. Joe Baldera says, oh, and by the way, speaking of golf, I'm working on a YouTube series, or just an interview series where I'm going to do like a walk and talk interview at East River 9. I've already partnered with East River 9, and now I have some connections with, current and former players trying to, get interviews with them. But now I want to do it like in a golf setting. I feel like that would be like just a cooler way to, consume it, where it's just laid back. And then, I have like the camera crew, everything set up. I just got to nail down the interview and get it scheduled. But, and I also too, have a family beach house where we have like really good fishing on our pier. And I would love to do a series with the Texans players that like to fish. I know Will Anderson Jr. likes to fish. I know Kamari Lassiter likes to fish. I know Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel like to fish. That would be a cool one too, where you're just sitting back fishing, do an interview that way. So I'm trying really hard to make that happen. Just got to get the most important part, the players, to be down to do it. But got everything else lined up. Joe says, I would love to see you talk to Cody Stutes and Landry Locker. It'd be a nice podcast. Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with them. I reached out to Cody and he like politely declined. I mean, I assume it's just, I get it. I'm cool with them, but I get it. Like, they're super busy. I mean, they go live all the time. So, but yeah, I mean, if they were ever open to it, I'd be down to do it. I mean, I believe I asked them to come on to my show and interview them because, every Wednesday I try to interview a local media person, just for people to get to know them. But, people already know them. They're big time. So, but yeah, they're awesome, dude. They do a great job. I enjoy their content. And they do a great job asking questions too. Harrison says, no, sir, we own the South. Facts. And then Justin says, awesome. That's a fun place. Yeah. East River 9 is badass. But yeah, that's all I got. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Quite a bit of y'all. Hopefully I like the schedule. Hopefully I can, make my optimism contagious. I know not everyone is as optimistic as me, but I really do feel like this will be a good season. I am like taking it with a different approach, where like last year I was like, it's going to be great no matter what, and there's no way it'll be bad. Like, I am kind of treading lightly, like with my confidence in the team, but I don't know, man. Like, I know it's like kind of like a blind leap of faith, like to put all this trust in Nick Caley, but sometimes you can just tell, like, the reason why I'm so confident in him and I'm so confident in him fixing the pass protection issues is the scheme he's coming from, where he just came. All of his predecessor, or all the other predecessors that came from the McVay tree, Kevin O'Connell, Zach Robinson, Zach Taylor, all these guys have gone and succeeded, like now. So that has me encouraged. The interview, I keep going back to it, and then every interview since then. But that opening presser, man, if y'all haven't seen it, or you can just go rewatch it, just the way D'Amico talked about why he fired Bobby, what he was looking for in the next candidate, and what he thought Nick Caley had, and then just like him saying that, and then Nick Caley talking, he's like, yes, like everything he said he wanted, like, this guy is it, and we agree this is what we needed. Like, when we all went through that whole thing together talking about it, like, these were all things that we said and agreed upon. Like, we needed someone who could adapt and adjust, not be rigid, all this stuff. And those were like the constant words and themes that you heard. And the other thing too, like, it's been pointed out and talked about, Bobby Slowick wasn't a position coach before, so he kind of got thrusted into an immediate, higher up position. Nick Caley's been a coach for a while. He's coached tight ends with the Patriots. He's dealt with like massive egos. The dude, his drive is insane. He's wanted to be a football coach since like freaking, I don't know, 8 years old, something crazy. Like, since he could, like, I forget what he said, but like basically his whole life. He's from Ohio, Canton. He's from like football town. His energy, I've already seen it like on the Texans clips. Like, when they post on Instagram, you can just hear him in the background just yelling, like, yes, let's fucking go, dude. This guy has energy. Like, that's what D'Amico is, right? On defense, and you see it reflecting the defense. Now you have it on offense, and we'll hope to see it in the offense. And I think we will. So I'm optimistic. As always, thank all of you guys. Shout out Larry. He said, good show. Appreciate you, Larry. Always good talking to you. Yeah, I mean, if y'all ever got anything, as always, hit me up. Check out the website. I got some new merch on there. I got Astro stuff, Texan stuff. I have a video. I need an advertisement video I've been waiting to release. I guess I can show the site real quick. And, I have like big visions for this as well. I think this could really be something good for the whole community. Like basically what I do, a big part of what I do is like aggregate content. I could also do it with like the site and like make it all encompassing. But like one of the things I would like, I have it all set up. I have like a forum on there or a Discord, whatever you want to call it. Let me see. I'll put my face in the corner. And I also have like a Texans directory. Like I want it to be where like, and you can make your own profile. It's another place to like all interact and supplement, whatever app you're on. But I mean, it could be great, dude. Like, so I have like, if you ever want to find anybody in the Texans world, Texans media, they're all right here. You can find them. But like the idea is like, if you are someone in this world and you like want a page, you can like claim your page and like put all your stuff right here. You can like embed all of your channels, have all your content, like just make it easier to find stuff. So like, that's the idea. I think it could be legit like that. And I already got it all set up, man. I got pretty much, I know everyone because I'm on this shit all the time. Spent the time to upload it. So that'll be my project this summer, is to kind of get people to claim these. And then at the very least, if you're not on here, tell me. But if you were to claim one, it could act as like a link tree. Like you make your own profile, which is your website, and then it's for free. So now you put in your bio, it's got all your stuff right there. But yeah, and then if you click right here at the top right, there's like the Discord where you can create your own profile. And, this is on me because I haven't really pushed it, but, it could be another place where you could have, discourse, I mean, you can embed stuff. You can embed Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, it's pretty legit. I mean, add photos, emojis, GIFs, all that good stuff. You can make different groups, topics, whatever you want to call it. As always, free newsletter. Feel free to subscribe. I've been kind of slacking on getting that done, but if you want to subscribe and get, free content, I'll update you on my stuff. I'll update you on articles. I've been slacking on that as well. Maybe I'll write one on the schedule. But yeah, so there's that. And then the store. Let's see, store. I've been spending time too, like filtering. Now you can like filter between like teams, men's, women's, collections. I'm trying to add like new stuff like this. But yeah, baseball stuff, Gigante, El Gigante, the Altuve, Giant, La Grasa, Hunter Brown, the Diesel. Trying to add new stuff, Air Jordan, different like, hoodies, shirts, hats. And then if you scroll down, I got plenty of Texan stuff. Let's see, Don't Sleep on Houston. Got a Nico shirt, got Amin Thompson, Don't Sleep on Houston. Derek Stingley, Felt Like a Butterfly, Sting Like a Bee. 281 Rocket shirt. Hawk and Lock, Houston versus Everybody. Got the Aziz, the classics are down here. The Will Anderson, CJ, the 713, the classic. So, yeah, I mean, got a bunch of stuff on there. I mean, feel free to check it out. But yeah, let's see. Joe says, this was awesome. Good show, brother. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it, man. And then Ethan says, let's get a sick watch party for one of these games, primetime games this year. Had a really good time at your watch party last year and even got to meet Aziz. Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely look to do that. I wasn't sure how I would like that because I'm like one of those people that like I like to lock in when the game's on, but I really enjoyed it too. Like it was nice to meet you and everyone else, and yeah, the appearance by Aziz was crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. I'll try to do multiple. That was a blast, but yeah, 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I'm gonna log off. Appreciate you guys.